Órale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFP podcast. I am your host, Jorge Martin. We are live on YouTube, Familia. Estamos en vivo. It's week 14, Familia. Now, last year, week 14 was the start of the fantasy playoffs. This year, we are on the cusp. Estamos ahí. Estamos listos for the fantasy football playoffs, Familia. Are you in? Do you need to win to get in? Are you out? Well, if you're out, we'll talk a little DFS later in the week. But right now, we are live in vivo. Please make sure to give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. Por favor. Nos encanta. We would love it so much. Love it so much. So also, we're on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Continue to do a little house cleaning while we're doing this. But familia, it's time to get ready for the playoffs. It is time to get ready for the playoffs. I'm going to do a little bit different this time. We're going to talk a little bit about one big question per team for each game that's going to be going on this week. So it's going to be we're going to have a little bit of fun this week. But first off, we're going to get a little cheese-may going on. Cheese-may! Mike Williams going on the COVID list, joining Keenan Allen. Now, there is some possibility that he could be playing this week, so we're going to wait to find out. But as of right now, start making some plans, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Also, Logan Thomas out for the season, but not a torn ACL. Buena noticias for my dynasty team. So, good news for him. From everything we hear, he's a good guy, hard worker, definitely remade himself. So, make sure to look for him next year. But right now, we're talking about week 14, and we're going to get into a little Adentro Y Afuera, a little different. So we're going to go down the games. Pittsburgh at Minnesota on Thursday Night Football. So the big question for Pittsburgh, will Deontay Johnson get 15 targets? Now, Chase Claypool has been slowed by some injuries. And Johnson, 120 targets so far this season. And he's number 4 in the NFL. He's gotten less than 10 targets just twice this season. And he's going up against the number 32 defense in Minnesota. Chalk it up for him. Big Ben is looking for him. And on the Minnesota side, is it the Justin Jefferson show? Or are we spreading the targets for Tyler Conklin and KJ Osborne with Adam Thielen officially out? Now, Jefferson has been getting between 9 and 14 targets from weeks 10 to 13, and he's the wide receiver 1 during that time. So for me, against Pittsburgh, their secondary has been dinged up. I'm saying, you know what? Get Justin Jefferson. If you're playing, I would even look for either Jefferson or Johnson as the captain mode and daily fantasy on that one. Let's go over to the Sunday slate. Early games. Cleveland hosting Baltimore. It's going to be an AFC North showdown. It's going to be Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Familia, it's a 2.5 point Cleveland favorite, 42 points. The weather's not going to be not expected to be an option. Obviously, it's going to be cold in the Midwest, but now, is anything been as cold as Lamar Jackson lately? So we've got in the last few games, he's been the quarterback 10. He's been out sick. He's been the quarterback 17 and quarterback 12 each one of those individual weeks. Overall, he's the quarterback 20 over this. Are we going to see that Lamar Jackson? We're going to see the guy who can explode and take over a game. You know, the Browns are number 7 against the quarterback since week number 9. Any rankings that we're going to be talking about for a team overall on the defensive side, they're going to be since week 9. So we got a little bit more recency bias. So I honestly, it's a guess. He hasn't been playing well, but you know what? This is the guy that can actually just explode and take over a game. So I wouldn't put it past him. On the Cleveland side, Baker Mayfield, is he going to be healthy enough to lead the Browns on a playoff push? He's the number 26 rated passer according to Pro Football Focus up until the bye that he had in week 12. The injuries are piling up, Familia. I mean, he's definitely got a surgery that he's going to have on his left shoulder. He's not going to be 100% until after the season. Baltimore secondary is really banged up, so if there's a week that he could turn something around, this is it. And he's also got the Las Vegas, and they're very forgiving defense and on the secondary. The one real quick, Baltimore is number 24 against wide receivers and number 22 against quarterbacks. So there's some possibilities there. Let's go over to Tennessee. The 8-4 Titans are taking on the 2-10 Jaguars. They're hosting them. Tennessee's an 8.5-point favorite, 43.5 over under. What Trevor Lawrence are we going to get? Is he going to show some growth, Familia? He's got Tennessee, Houston, and the Jets the next 3 games. All of them are really bad against the quarterbacks. So could this be a run where he kind of gets a little bit hot, a little caliente before the end of the season? So maybe shows a little growth. Hard to expect that. I mean, I would say I do have him in a super flex league. I am going to be starting him this week because of that. He has not had a 300-yard passing game since week 6. He's only been above 60% in completion percentage since that game. So the odds are forever not in your favor, but sometimes you got to bet on the talent, and the super flex leagues definitely take that chance. He's not taking that chance in single quarterback. On the Tennessee side, what running back are we going to see? Deontay Foreman, 19 carries for 109 yards. Dontrell Hilliard, 12 carries for 131 yards and a touchdown. Both those numbers were accumulated in week 12. It's too close to call. Oh, Dios mío. It's hard to expect either one to take the lead caballo role. So I'm thinking this is going to be a committee. It's going to be kind of like 50-50 role. And that's how it's going to be divided up. Another thing to keep an eye on with the practice reports, Julio Jones, is he back? Vamos a ver. If he's back, you're playing him because this secondary is number 29 against the wide receiver familia. All right, let's go to KC. Let's get some barbecue going on. The 8-4 Chiefs taking on the 6-6 Raiders, hosting those Raiders. The Chiefs are 9.5-point favorites, and it's 48-point over under. Familia, one thing to keep in mind in this one, there is going to could be some winds that are playing a factor in this game. 17-mile-an-hour winds. Now, usually it's about 20 to 25 miles an hour that they really start becoming an issue. Much like they were way past that on Monday Night Football. That's why the Patriots only ran the ball 3 times. But on the Las Vegas side, is Josh Jacobs ready to take over the Kenyon Drake role with Drake out for the season? Last game, 22 touches, but the most important thing, 9 targets. He caught all 9 of them for 38 yards, Familia. Jalen Richard is on the COVID list. Listen, you know what? I'm looking at this one as a possibility where this could be a big game for Josh Jacobs. Javonte Williams did hit the Chiefs for 103 yards last week. So even though they've been pretty good, they're number 17 against the running backs. There's that recency bias thing again. It could be happening. On the KC side, will this be the week that Patrick Mahomes breaks out? Last 2 weeks, 260 yards, 184 yards against Dallas and Denver. The wins, you know what, this is with his arm, it's got to be way past 25 miles an hour for the wins to become a factor. And the Raider defense is pretty generous at times. He hit them for 406 yards and 5 touchdowns in week 10. Familia, are we going to get an encore? I'm calling it yes. Sí, vamonos. So let's go over to Nolans. Well, not New Orleans, but we're going over to the Meadowlands. The New York Jets, 3-9. They're hosting the New Orleans Saints, who are 5-point favorites, road favorites, 43-point over under. It's injury time. Are we going to? I will say one thing. I am so excited. I just can't hide it that Alvin Kamara is back. He's expected to be back. That knee that's knocked him out for a few games. I need him for one of my win and get in games on the Familia League, and on the other side is Taysom Hill. Is he going to be back enough, and is he going to incorporate Kamara into the game? Last year, the targets for Kamara in the 4 games with Hill as the starting quarterback: 1, 2, 3, and 10 targets. 10 targets in the last game. I'd love to see that in this one. Kamara is the greatest weapon far and away the greatest weapon that the Saints have, and the Jets number 32 against the running back. Number 32 against receivers. So when he breaks out and he breaks out wide right, wide left, hey, you know what? He's going to be a wide receiver. Let's hope that Kamara, maybe he gets eased in, but I think they're going to look to get him some targets in space in this game. On the Jets side, Elijah Moore. Is he going to become the lead Caballo wide receiver with Corey Davis out? Corey Davis is out for the season. Now, Moore is dealing with a quad injury, but he has 11, 8, and 12 targets in the last 3 games. And he had the best performance from Zach Wilson last week. For me, well, I'm betting on Moore. I'm actually going to be sitting him in a week, but that's only because I have T. Higgins as a flex option ahead of him. So I'm playing him ahead of him. Let's go to one of the great rivalries in NFL history. The Dallas Cowboys, 8-4, going to Washington to take on the football team, 6-6. Dallas is 4-point favorites, 48-point over or under. Weather's not an issue. It's going to be cold, but it's not looking like rain or wind at this time. Now, on the Dallas side, we got CeeDee Lamb got 30% of targets last time. Amari Cooper got 5% of targets. Is this going to be the same, or are we going to get a little more evening of the target share? So that one's, I would say there's going to be a little bit of a difference. The person who's going to get hit the hardest, though, I think is going to be Michael Gallup. He had a 24% target share last week. I think that's going to come down. I think it's going to go into the teens. I think the targets are going to jump up for Amari Cooper. I don't know if CeeDee Lamb will hit 30%, but I think it's going to be a good one because the wide receivers are sticking it to the Washington football team. The defense is number 25 against wide receivers on this season. So, get your Dallas wide receivers. If you got them, come all. Over on the Washington side, more Antonio Gibson with J.D. McKissic still dealing with the COVID protocols. Gibson is the fantasy football overall RB4 over the last 4 weeks. He's averaging 27.3 touches over that span. So against Dallas, they're number 4 against the running back. But you know what? Washington has really been concentrating on the run. Gibson, ride him, baby. Ride that Washington guy, not Cowboy. Over Atlanta, the 5-7 Falcons are going to the 5-7 Carolina Panthers, who have a new offensive coordinator. Joe Brady fired recently. So Carolina 2.5-point favorites. It's a 42.5-point over under. On the Atlanta side, will Russell Gage keep it going against the number 9 Carolina defense against the wide receivers? Jalen Waddle and Terry McLaurin both had 100 plus yards receiving in weeks 11 and 12. Gage has caught 22 of 27 targets over the last 3 games, and he had 130 yards once and a TD in another game. Now, I don't love this matchup for Gage. In fact, I didn't recommend him because I don't love the schedule for the Falcons the rest of the way. Carolina, that defense they are legit in the secondary. Stephon Gilmore may be sticking him, or it could be paying some extra attention to Kyle Pitts. They've just been really doing an extra work on Pitts. I'm not banking on Gage. Over on the Carolina side, Chuba Hubbard and Amir Abdullah show against the number 26 running back defense. Now, the one thing that I don't love, Chuba has only 2 receptions since week 8. Amir Abdullah had 6 just last week alone. This is going to be a mix, but I'm betting on Amir Abdullah on this one because we have Leonard Fournette. Just take it to Atlanta for 48 receiving yards last week. Tony Pollard, Alvin Kamara, both had good receiving games against Atlanta. So I'm betting on the guy who's getting work in the passing game. All right. Let's go over to Houston. Do we have to talk about this game? Yes, we do. The 2-10 Texans are hosting the 4-8 Seattle Seahawks. Seattle is a 7.5 point favorite. Go figure on that one. And 48 1.5 point over under. Now on the Seattle side, DK Metcalf, does he get off the schneid? He has no top 24 finish in any of his last 4 games. He's gotten 8 targets in 3 of those games. No TDs since week 8, no 100 yards since week 3. I'm looking at him. I want to believe DK Metcalf is one of my favorite wide receivers, Familia. Does he break 100? I think he breaks through for a TD in this game, but I don't think he gets 100 yards. Last week was the best week that Russell Wilson has looked so far this season. So think about that. Now, on the Houston side, is Brandon Cooks startable anymore? He's got 14 targets in his last 3 games and has had no more than 45 receiving yards in any of these games. Davis Mills is a possibility to start in this game. They may be going with him to see what they have. For Brandon Cooks, he will have some spike games here and there, but I think you just can't count on it, Familia. Even with the target share, I'm not counting on it. So let's go to the afternoon games, Familia. We are going to Denver, Familia. The 6-6 Denver Broncos hosting the 1-10-1 Detroit Lions. Denver's 7.5 point favorite, 42 point over under. On the Detroit side, is anyone startable? Going to Mile High with DeAndre Swift likely still hurt. With Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown, they had a nice connection last week, several nice connections last week, especially with the game winner. But on the road against that secondary that just shut down Patrick Mahomes last week at Mile High, dome teams. Remember, it's a dome team going into weather. It's going to be cold. Not gonna be snowy, but I'm not counting on this one. Even Jamal Williams maybe is a flex. He's the only one that I'm looking at. On the Denver side, how is the splits of the carries going to happen between Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams? Now it's looking like they both could be on the field. In weeks 8 to 12, Gordon had 57 carries. Javonte Williams had 48. It's kind of like a 55-45 split, Familia. Dios mío, it's a tough one, but I'm hoping it gets a little bit more 50-50. Javonte Williams, he looked so good last week. He got people so excited. I think we're going to be hearing, if they still share the carries the rest of this way, I think we're going to be hearing about that game against the Chiefs all off season, and with a lot of predictions going on about Javonte Williams if they don't add anybody to complement him. Now we're going over to the SoFi Stadium, where the Chargers at 7-5 are hosting the New York Football Giants. I'm going to be actually at this game, Familia, so you might see a little fun stuff on Twitter. So follow me there. I'll throw some stuff on Instagram. So on the Giants side, will Jake Fromm, the third string quarterback, is that going to lead to 8 in the box for Saquon Barkley? The Giants, I'm telling you, would do well to get the ball to Barkley in space, because Javonte Williams had 57 receiving yards against them. So maybe get a little bit easier touches for him, maybe 8 to 10 targets, because really, what else do they have? I mean, we haven't heard that Kadarius Toney or Sterling Shepard are coming back. Get them in there. On the Chargers side, who's going to catch passes if both Williams and Keenan Allen are out? They averaged 17 targets over the last 6 games. So if they're out, I'm thinking the pecking order is going to be Austin Eckler, Jalen Guyton, Jared Cook, and Josh Palmer. I think it's going to be in that order, but Eckler is going to be the one who's going to get a lot of work in this game against that New York Giants defense. Let's go over to Cincinnati, the Queen City, where the Bengals are at 7-5, are hosting the 6-6 49ers. The 49ers are 1.5 point favorites, kind of crooked, maybe a little bit like Joe Burrow's pinky. So was that too soon, Bengal fans? I'm talking, that's you, mi hermana Yasmin Quintana. No, over on the San Francisco side, who's going to carry the load? That's the big question. You got Elijah Mitchell with a concussion. You got Jeff Wilson with a knee injury. Jermichael Hasty, he's had 13 carries on the season. He just went for $37 in fab in one of my leagues. And Deebo Samuel is still not practicing, but he could be back and get some carries. I think I want to have, if Mitchell is back, I'm starting him. Otherwise, I'm not touching this backfield. I will say look for another big game from George Kittle, because this is a defense that gave up 116 yards to Darren Waller just 2 weeks ago. So they're number 29. The Bengals are against the tight end. Over on the Cincinnati side, Chase or Higgins this week? Both? Well, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, those combos each had some success against the number 30 defense on the season against wide receivers. So you're starting both of them. Don't be surprised if either Chase or Higgins has a big game. Now let's go to Buffalo 7-5 at Tampa Bay 9-3. Tampa Bay is 3-point favorites with a 53.5 point over under. It's going to be 79 degrees expected which is about a 55-degree jump from what it was on Monday Night Football for the Bills. And te lo digo, familia, it's big difference. This game is going to tell us a lot about the Bills. Now, this was some people had this potentially as a Super Bowl preview. Is Josh Allen going to be better going against a defense that's given up passing yardage to Matt Ryan, 297 yards, and Carson Wentz, 306 yards in their last two games? Tampa Bay is also giving up more against the run. Cordarrelle Patterson, Jonathan Taylor, both had good games in those over that span. So, that Tampa Bay defense has not been as dominant as they were during the playoffs last year. Now, and when I said Patterson and Jonathan Taylor, they both did some work on the receiving side against Tampa Bay. So, maybe start. I don't know if I'm starting any Buffalo running backs. But if I do, it's going to be Devin Singletary, because he gets some work in the passing game. Over on the Tampa Bay side, will Tom Brady further exploit a Buffalo defense that's missing Tre'Davious White and has shown some, kinks in the armor? I think so. Yes. Expect a lot of points in this game. Brady's going to be throwing a lot. Start Godwin, start Gronk, start Mike Evans. And start Leonard Fournette. He's going to run all over the Bills. Again, talking about CPAT, and we're talking about JT, what he did to them, and especially the Patriots last week. Te lo digo, familia. He is Leonard Fournette. He's a top 5 play this week, familia. It is. All right, Sunday Night Football closing strong. Chicago 4-8 going up to Lambeau Field with Green Bay, the Packers are 12.5 point favorites, 43.5 point over under. It's going to be cold, familia. It's going to be down around freezing temperatures, about 32 degrees with 13 mile an hour winds. That's not a problem for Mr. Aaron Rodgers, and it's looking like Justin Fields is going to be starting for the Bears. So I'm not starting him. The only bear I'm starting, for me, the big question, the only bear I'm starting is David Montgomery. My big question, is he potentially a league winner again like he was last year? Green Bay, which has been good, but they've given up some yardage of late. But after Green Bay, the Bears are facing the Minnesota Vikings. They're number 22 against running backs. Seattle, number 31 against running backs. And the Giants, number 20 against running backs. David Montgomery, he's getting a league caballo role, major workhorse. Start him with pride for the next few weeks. On the Green Bay side, are we going to see more Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon as a 1-2 punch? Dillon, he out-touched Jones 25-10 in their last game before the bye, but it was Jones's first game back from injury. I think it's going to get a little bit more even up, but you know what? This is one of those ground and pound games where you're going to see Dillon, kind of like imposing his will with that fantastic offensive line that the Packers have been rolling out there this season, even with injuries. All right, let's close it out strong. Monday Night Football, familia. The Rams, 8-4, going to Arizona to face the 10-2 Arizona Cardinals. Arizona's 2.5-point favorite with a 51.5-point over/under. Is Stafford back after that big game? 295 yards, 3 touchdowns last week, but he hasn't had a good game against a solid defense since he threw for 343 yards and 4 touchdowns against Tampa Bay in week 3. That's week 3. That's 2.5 months ago, familia. Arizona defense, their passing defense is one of the best. I'm looking for another big Sony Michel game, especially if Darrell Henderson isn't healthy. The Cardinals are number 28 against the running back over the last since week 9. So I think it's Michel, and then you hope for Stafford to kind of take some deep shots and maybe beat the defense with Van Jefferson or Odell Beckham Jr. On the Arizona side, I have to say one thing. Going to Chicago in the rain and the cold, a dome team doing that is one of the most impressive victories. They did it with the run. They did it with timely passes. Kyler Murray looks back. He looked great. Ran more than he did before he injured his ankle. So he looked really good. And are we going to see more of the same after the Cardinals? They punched the Rams in the nose, beat them 37-20, and it wasn't even that close. Now, these Cardinals are 7 for 7 when it comes on the road, and each one of those wins has been at least by at least 10 points. So why are they not in more Super Bowl talk? It seems like it's more Buccaneers, it's more Packers than you hear about them on the NFC side. You got James Conner, the RB10 on the season. He's got 14 touchdowns, number 2 in the NFL. Elijah Mitchell, A.J. Dillon, both gashed the Rams recently for 90-plus yards. So I'm thinking Connor's going to have himself a game, and we're going to see a little bit of a shootout. Familia, eso es todo for our show. Special thanks to Anchor for being our hosting network and getting our independent podcasts out to the Familia community. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify, thanks to them. And everybody, we are on YouTube. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Please, por favor, make sure to do that. Also, find original content with an article that's going to be a couple of articles that are going to be supporting this at familiaffb.com. You can find me, Jorge Martin 17. on Twitter, and also go to Familia FFB, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Find us all there. Get all our original content, Familia. Get in your playoffs. As my friend Mauricio Gutierrez likes to say, buena suerte, excepto en los enfrentamientos contra mí. Gracias, everybody. And remember, todos somos familia. Salud.